السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أرحب فيكم في الجزء الأخير الخاص بهيكلة اختبار الفصل الدراسي الأول 2023-2024 لمادة الفيزياء للصف الحادي عشر متقدم حسب الهيكلة الواردة إلينا من مؤسسة الإمارات للتعليم. وصلنا إلى الهدف رقم 20. السؤال يقول: What is the magnitude of an object's average velocity v average of if the object moves from point with the x coordinate x initial 2 and y initial -3 to a point with coordinates x final 5 and y final -9 in time interval delta t it is 2.4. First, find the displacement in x-axis. It is x final minus x initial. Substitute for that. X final 5 minus x initial 2. The answer is 3 meters. The displacement on y-axis, it is y final minus y initial. Then it is -9 subtracted -3, which is -6 meter. Here we can put the displacement vector as delta r equals delta x x hat plus delta y y hat. That's get me yield to delta r equals delta x, it is 3 x hat minus 6 y hat and in meters. Now the average velocity is the rate of change of the displacement delta r over delta t. So divide 3x hat minus 6y hat over 2.4. 3 divided by 2.4, it is 1.25 x hat minus 6 divided by 2.4, it is 2.5 y hat. This is the average velocity as a vector. Now if you need the magnitude for this velocity, v average, apply the Pythagorean theorem, vx squared plus vy squared. This is the x coordinate for the velocity and that one is the y coordinate for the velocity. So v average is square root of 1.25 squared plus 2.5 squared. The answer should be 5 square root of 5 over 4. It is approximately 2.8 meter per second. If the question asks for the direction of this velocity, just apply tan inverse Vy over Vx. This is additional, it is not requested by the question. Tan inverse Vy 2.5 and Vx it is 1.25. The angle is 63.4, but this angle is in the fourth quadrant, so we must subtract from 360 and the answer is almost 297 degrees. Why we find the velocity in the fourth quadrant? Because the x component of the velocity is positive and the y component is negative, so it is in the fourth quadrant. question 3.36. A man in search of his cat drives first 10 kilometers northeast, then 12 kilometers straight south, and finally 8 kilometers in direction of 330 north of west. What is the magnitude and direction of his resultant displacement? Try to sketch these vectors, these displacement vectors on x and y approximately. First, 10 kilometers northeast. Between north and east, there is no mentioned angle, so it is 45 with east or with north. So this is the first displacement. Let us name it as A. It is 10 kilometers and this angle is 45. The other is 12 kilometers straight south, so 12 kilometers south, this is B, 12. Finally 8 kilometers north of west. Between north and west, the 30 degrees is with west to the north. This is C and this is the angle theta. Now the easiest way is to express our vectors in terms of x hat and y hat. For A, we have ax x hat plus ay y hat. Ax equals a cosine 45 and ay equals a sine 45. We assign the cosine to the x-axis because the angle is adjacent to the x-axis. So this is ax. And ay, it is opposite to the angle. So ax is a cosine 45. A is 10 cosine 45. This is in x hat. Plus y, again it is 10 but sine 45 in the y direction. This is the vector A. Now the vector B, it is directly to the south, so it is minus y hat, and we put all of B on this direction because no component in the x direction. The only component for B is into y-axis down, so it is minus. For C, we have two components, one in x hat, the other in the y hat. The one in the y hat, it is positive because it is upward. It's obvious here, it's cx, cy. But cx is to the left, so it is negative. Now, for cx and cy, cx equals c cosine theta with a minus sign. cy equals c sine theta with a positive sign. Why we assign the cosine to the x-axis? Because cx is adjacent to the angle theta, which is 30. So it will take cosine. Cx equal minus c cosine theta. C, it is 8. Cosine, the angle is 30. And for cy, 8 sine 30. Don't forget the minus for the x component. So we have here 8 cosine 30 and here 8 sine 30. Now let us name the resultant as R. R has two components, one into x, the other into y. There is no component in the z direction. Now, to find R, add the x component with each other and the y with each other. For x component, we have 10 cosine 45 plus nothing here. The contribution of b is 0 on the x-axis, minus 8 cosine 30. This is into x hat. Now for y hat, we have 10 sine 45 minus 12 and 8 sine 30. All of these three. So 10 sine 45 minus 12 plus 8 sine 30 into y-axis. Use your calculator to find these two components. For the x component, it is 5.8 x hat. For the y component, it is minus 0.929. These are our two components. Now to find the magnitude and direction, the x component for r is 0.143 x hat. Use your calculator. Then the y component is minus 0.929. The magnitude is in kilometer. Now to find the magnitude, use the Pythagorean. R equal square root rx squared plus ry squared. Square root of rx is 143 squared plus ry, it is 0.929, and I have squared. Find the magnitude now. The answer is almost 0.94 kilometer, and the direction of that is tan inverse about 929. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. يهديكم الله ويصلح بالكم أثابنا وأثابكم الله. Now the angle is 81.2. What is the location of this angle? The x component is to the right, so it is east. The y component negative, so it is south. Our angle is there, so it is 81.2 south of east. Congratulations, the last question. 3.36 is repeated question. We discussed it before. Now 3.38. A truck travels 3.02 kilometer north and then makes an angle of 90 degrees to left, and drives another 4.3 kilometer. The whole trip takes 5 minutes. With respect to two-dimensional coordinate system on the surface of the Earth such that the y-axis points north, what is the net displacement vector of the truck for this trip, and what is the magnitude of the average velocity for this trip? It is the same as the last question, but we have here to find the average velocity. So this question may come into the exam because it has two unknowns. the displacement and the average velocity. Let us find the answer easily. This question is very easy since there is no restoring for the vectors. Since the first displacement is due to the north, like this is the first displacement, 3.02. The second one, turn left 90 degrees, like this is B, 4.3, and stops there. So the resultant is this vector, let it be C. Immediately you can find C by Pythagorean theorem, because we have right triangle. C equals square root of 4.3 squared plus 3.02 squared. 3.02 squared plus 4.3 squared. This is if the question needs the magnitude of the displacement, and the direction of it is tan inverse y over x302 over 4.3. But the question doesn't need this one. He needs the displacement as a vector. So it's very easy. Why? This is Cy and that one is Cx. So C as a vector, the displacement as a vector is Cx x hat plus Cy y hat. Cx, it is minus 4.3 because it is to the left, x hat, and y is 3.02 and it is positive because it is in the positive y direction. That's it. This is the displacement vector. In Cartesian notation, you can write it like this: minus 4.3, comma 3.02. Don't forget the unit kilometer. Now, for B, we need the average velocity. The average velocity is delta R, which is C, over delta T. So it is minus 4.3 over, the time interval is 5 minutes. The 5 minutes is 5 times 60. So it is 300 seconds. So we have here 300 seconds. And the kilometers into meter, it is multiplied by 1000. This is in x hat. Now in y hat, 3.02 divided by the time 300, then multiply by 1000 to convert it to meter. This is into y hat. So the velocity should be minus 43 over 3 x hat plus 151 over 15 y hat meter per second. For the magnitude, V square root of 3 over 3 squared plus 151 over 15 squared. It is 17.5 meter per second. And that's it. This is the magnitude of the average velocity. If they ask you about the angle, theta, it is tan inverse the y component over the x component, and it should be 35.1 with the negative x-axis, so it is 180 minus 35.1, or you can say north of west. That's it. أتمنى لكم التفوق والازدهار، تستحقون ذلك. وآسف إذا أطلت عليكم وكنت كثير التفصيل، ولكن حتى يستفيد معظم الطلاب. إن شاء الله بداية من الفصل القادم، من بداية أول أسبوع، سوف نسجل حصصا يومية أو شبه يومية لجميع مفاصل الكتاب، وفي نهاية الفصل سوف نجري مراجعات وحلول للهيكلة وهكذا. ابقوا على تواصل، تستطيعون الاشتراك لمعرفة التفاصيل، لا تضغطوا الجرس حتى لا يتم إزعاجكم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أجمل التمنيات، في أمان الله.